Welcome to Band Talk with Charlie Mangini and friends. The only podcast where it's okay to talk in band. On this podcast, you will be able to hear conversations with some of the greatest names in wind band conducting, composing, and arranging. We'll also visit with great college, high school, middle school, and elementary band directors to get their thoughts on various aspects of being a band director. We'll have regular check-ins with instrument specialists, music dealers, and instrument repair professionals. And if that's not enough, we'll even have regular conversations with Dr. Tim, who will help keep us motivated. That's Band Talk with Charlie Mangini and friends. And now, here's Charlie.
Welcome to Band Talk with Charlie Mangini and friends. And this, podcast number 59 and number 20 in Season 2. I'm so happy that you're joining us, and I know you will find today's conversation with composer and arranger Lester Taylor to be one that will certainly get you thinking and hopefully encourage you to do some listening. You know, I'm not sure about you, but sometimes my senses are simply overloaded. So much time is spent on our phones and tablets and computers and televisions or whatever the latest technology craze seems to be capturing our attention. And it captures our time too. And everything just becomes a noise, a blur. And through it all, we seem to be losing our ability to listen. Even in conversations, we don't take time to listen. But when someone is saying something, we're not hearing what they say, but we're thinking about what we will say next. Listening is becoming a lost art. And listening to music, not just having music as a background, but taking dedicated time to really listen to music, is something that, as musicians or music lovers, we need to get back to. We need to carve out some time every day to listen to something. And I'm not talking about just listening to the latest band releases or trying to find that next piece you want to program on your spring band concert. No, I'm talking about listening to music of all genres from all parts of the world, to take dedicated time, alone, with a good set of headphones, and to absorb all the sounds, to appreciate the composition, the harmonies, the rhythms, the form, the artistry, the overall aesthetic the music is conveying, and let it stimulate our minds and fulfill our souls, and reignite the reason why we got hooked on music in the first place. I remember those days in my early years of college when I would buy the latest album and go back to my dorm room and listen to it over and over and over. And I'd absorb all of the sounds. It was magical. It was inspirational. It was motivating. It made me want to be a better musician, a better performer. And it instilled in me an appreciation for those who attain a level of proficiency in performance that few will ever realize. Today's podcast is devoted to listening. And to do that, I called upon my dear friend Lester Taylor to have a conversation with me about listening to music. I've known Les since my college days, when my college band director, Tim Lotzenheiser, or Dr. Tim as you may know him, introduced me to Les and his wife, Susan. I spent a couple of summers during my college years in the Muncie and Anderson, Indiana areas. I took some classes at Ball State with the legendary Earl Dunn, took some summer trumpet lessons with the great Larry McWilliams, and worked with Jim Patton and his marching band at Madison Heights High School in Anderson. And it was during those summers that I would visit with Les and watch him sit at the piano as he worked hour after hour arranging music for school and college marching bands around the country. And I still remember him playing a chord progression for me, and then another one, and then asking me which one I liked better. I still remember the wall of record albums that he had to his left, and I remember listening to music with him, and today he shares with me so many new recordings and performances that he discovers one way or the other, and most every time I am just brought back to the importance of listening to music, to discovering new sounds, new composers, new performers. This one's a special conversation for me, and I know it will be one of your favorites too. So get ready to join us right after this word from my friends at the Eastman Music Company.
Band Talk with Charlie Mangini and Friends is made possible through the generous support of the Eastman Music Company. From the first student instrument to the professional heirloom, Eastman Music Company is committed to crafting the finest instruments for musicians throughout the world. For more information, visit eastmanwinds.com.
Well, this is going to be just so much fun because this is one of my most favorite people in the world. And the last time I had him on the podcast was March 9, and I'm not sure I ever laughed so hard. In fact, I think my sides still hurt. And it's great to have you back on the podcast to my buddy, Lester Taylor. Les, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Charlie. I'm glad to be back.
Oh, man, it's been too long. You know, I took some time off. My wife had a little medical thing and took some time off, but I'm back. And the reason I'm back is you're the one that kept going like, when do you kind of come back and start doing your podcast, man? You need to get off your butt. Let's go.
I enjoy it all the time. I loved last week with Paul Murtha. That was great.
Yeah, he was great. He was great. I got a good one coming up this week too. It's gonna be out hopefully pretty soon here, later today, maybe.
Okay.
We're recording this today, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, on the 15th of December. So it'll be out probably next week on the 22nd or something like that. It'll be a great Christmas present for our listeners. That's what I'm going to tell them, Lester. Right. And in fact, if they had a camera and they could see it, you're wearing a bow right now. You have a bow on your head, don't you? You're a Christmas gift to our listeners. Is that right?
I am, Charlie. In just a minute, let me get my clothes back on.
Okay. Hey, keep it clean. This is a family program. Okay. Let's get serious here. Well, a lot's changed since we chatted in March, Les, and not much has changed, has it? It's kind of like we're in limbo.
We are, and it's I don't even know what to say. We see some places, some areas of the country where music is just kept going no matter what, like some of those bands in Texas and down there where Mark Speed is around Clemson. But around here, they're just kind of still marking time.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to talk about band with you today. I want to talk about music. I want to talk about some other stuff. And over the past couple months,
okay,
every time I check on Facebook, it seems like you're posting another link to a recording. And then when I listen to it, I'm just simply knocked out. I mean, man, each one gets better and better and better. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about listening to music.
Okay.
So how often and how much do you listen to music?
Oh, I haven't even thought about it. That's a tough question because it's a part of my daily life. I remember, you remember Jim Houston?
Yes, Studio PR.
Yeah, he had Studio PR and he sold it once to Columbia,
Yeah.
and then later to Hal Leonard. And I remember him when we were talking, and Susan was with me, my wife, and Jim said, most people, when they graduate from college in music, never listen to music again. In other words, I mean, you do what you have to do as a band director. You'll certainly consult the most recent recordings out in selecting your music. But as far as listening to music, he said, and I sort of agree because I'll ask people every once in a while, what have you listened to lately? And most of the time it's a deadpan look. And so that was a trigger, although I probably had this disease, I'll call it a disease, from the time I was a little boy, when Dad took me into Morocco's music in Logansport, and we bought a couple 78 records.
Wow.
And it's been a disease ever since, because I hoard music, I hoard recordings, I hoard everything I can in relationship to sound. So it's been a part of my life, and every day, same thing.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit more about that. But so when you listen, are you an active listener? I mean, like you listen and you're listening and you're not doing chores, or are you more of like a passive listener when you listen and there's stuff going on and then you hear something, you stop and you go like, whoa, what was that I just heard?
Seldom do I am a passive listener. once in a while, I'll put something on YouTube on the television through the Roku, and I might listen to a long concert. And I might get up and do a couple things, but I try and stay in tune with what the concert is doing. And you know how they are. Most of them are what, an hour and maybe even up to 2 hours. So, but it's better than politics. And that's what I see on Facebook. I would rather listen to music and post music.
Yeah. So you focus on listening. You're a listener. You're active in the listening process.
I believe I am. Yes.
Yeah. You know, I talked to Tim Marr a while back on the podcast, and he was talking about when he had time for dedicated listening. He called it. You know, he creates time for dedicated listening. I think that's cool. So is there a particular style or genre that you like to listen to more than others?
Well, I probably listen to jazz music more than any other, especially orchestra or big band. I have several connections via Facebook with some German and Netherlands composers and so forth, and especially through the Metropole Orchestra. Fred Decker over there has been just super for me, and he studied here at Illinois and got a marketing degree and lived in Seattle for a little while. And Fred, we trade something every day. So things like that are extremely important to me.
That's great. Well, I remember way back when you introduced me to a recording, and I laughed so hard. I was crying. And I think it was at that point when I said, Les Taylor offers something to listen to. I'm going to listen to it. And it was Jonathan and Darlene Edwards.
Oh, yeah.
And it's their recording of Cocktails for Two, if you remember that. And of course, that's Paul Weston and Joe Stafford, right?
Correct.
And you know, their recordings are on Apple Music. Do you know that?
No, I didn't.
I was like, as I was getting ready to talk to you today, I went, I wonder if that stuff's on Apple Music, and doggone it, it's on Apple Music. And so I started playing Cocktails for Two again, and the tears were rolling down my face, you know, because especially if you've got people that aren't necessarily really good musicians, you know, or into music, and then you just put it on. I said, I think I'll put on some music, you know, and you put it on, and then you just look at them because, you know, she's singing sharp or she's out of rhythm or something. And you know, it's just killing you. And they're going, oh, that's very good. Oh yeah. They're liking it, man. It's great.
Do you remember when they appeared on Ed Sullivan years ago?
No.
Oh yeah. They were guests on Ed Sullivan's Sunday night show at least a couple times. And they were hilarious.
They did their shtick on Ed Sullivan?
They did. And they didn't expose themselves at first.
Right.
Another connection I had where I first got in touch with Darlene and Jonathan was my friend Bill Agel from Macy worked at Davis TV, and they had a big record collection. And that's the first place I heard Jonathan and Darlene Edwards on their first side. I forget what the name of it was, but if you remember the side, it had two left hands, didn't it? It had the keyboard. It was either two left hands or two right hands.
Yeah.
You don't remember it? Okay.
I don't. I don't. But they had some. They had some other ones in there, like was it? Jonathan Plays Fats and Darlene Remembers Duke, or something that. That was another one of their albums or something.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So if the people are listening to this, you got to go to Apple Music and just in the search box, just type Jonathan and Darlene Edwards, and then just listen to any one of them. And if you don't, that bring a smile to your face. It'll sound like your band probably sometimes. You know, they're playing sharp and flat and out of tune and stuff like that.
Well, but it takes really talented musicians to pull this off. Which they were. Yeah.
Have you found any other gems like that lately? Anything to really sit back and just, it's been tongue in cheek?
Not a lot. Most of it's fairly serious listening. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. no humor.
Well, yeah. Well, you mentioned recently you're in touch with the guy for the Metropole Orchestra, and for our listeners, that's a jazz and classical orchestra from the Netherlands. And who got you started listening to them?
I would say I probably connected when I bought my first or second Metropole Orchestra side, and one of the first ones was with the great tenor player Zoot Sims.
Wow.
And there were several fine American related jazz artists that recorded with them. Clark Terry did.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see who else. The Manhattan Transfer has. All kinds of groups have recorded with them. Shaka Khan. There's a lot of popular things now. Things that really cut the edge as far as that style with pop music. You've heard of Collier, right? What's his first name? Oh shoot, is it Joseph? No, not Joseph. Oh shoot.
You mean with the Metropole?
No, well, he's done a lot with the Metropole.
No, I don't know. No.
Oh shoot,
You'll think of it.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, they're and they got a ton of stuff on YouTube. People can go to YouTube and listen to them.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's good and it's very high quality. And boy, they play and their arrangements are just killer.
Oh yeah.
And they had an old trumpet guy that just passed away. Ack.
Yeah, Ack Van Rooyen.
Man, he was a player, man.
He was so smooth.
He was soulful.
Oh yes, beautiful player. Beautiful player. He was another connection. He was a guest with them once, and I got a hold of his email somehow. This was before I knew Fred, and I wrote to him online, and lo and behold, we started a friendship, and he sent me a copy of that album I was looking for. Later, I've been able to find it and make it permanent in my collection, but it's just some of the best, and that was a great relationship. I'm so sorry to see him pass.
He was 90, 91?
91.
91 years old, man. That's great. So, Les, when you listen to a piece of music, like, what do you listen for? Like, what are those things that you're listening for that jump out at you?
Well, the arrangement, of course, is what I usually listen for, unless it's an original composition. I'm trying to think, what do I listen for? I listen for, just like we do when we listen to Stravinsky or anyone else. We listen for the melody. We listen for what's going on inside, what kind of things are happening with the inner voices. I listen to it all. Sometimes I have to go back because I missed something, but most of the time I can hear things pretty quickly.
Well, that's because you got ears like I've never heard before in my life. You know, it's like, I mean, you can hear into things so fast. Yeah, you're amazing with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have trouble sometimes hearing a door slam, you know. Not sure. I remember being in a high school band once, right? And actually the door did slam and the kid looked up and he says, well, what was that? And I said, it was a door slamming. And so he couldn't hear a door.
That's great music right now.
Oh man, no kid.
Yeah.
So what are those things that distinguish a great performance from a good performance?
Ooh. It's the way it's recorded and mixed, probably. And I've talked to I've talked to Fred, I've talked to a lot of people about this, and none of us seem to come up with a real good answer to your question. There's something about the recording and the way it's mixed. If I compare that to, let's say, Wynton Marsalis with the Jazz Orchestra at Lincoln Center, or I compare it to the Big Fat Band with Gordon Goodwin,
right,
or many other fine groups here, I don't hear it the same as I hear most of the European and groups, whether it's not just and excuse me, I'm getting tongue-tied here. Not just the Metropole, but look at all the individual bands there, and also in Europe, in Germany. Look at the SWS or SWR big band, the WDR big band, the NDR big band, and it just goes on. And I sort of feel like there's more going on there in this respect than there is here. And I ask people about it. Like when I was in college, we'd have reading sessions. Some of the guys I'd know would get together, and they didn't have a performance in mind. They just got together to play. And I know from talking to Fred, there's 2 or 3 big bands around Amsterdam where he plays in a couple of them. And how many places can you find in the US where that's going on? I don't know. I can't find them. Now we have a community band thing, which is what, Nails, isn't it? Don't you find some of the community bands as really being excellent?
Yes, yeah, I do. Yeah.
And I don't see that over across the ocean, so to speak. There are some. Most of them are like what, the Royal Marine Band. Is it Norway? Is it Norway? Can you help me here?
I think it is Norway. Yeah.
I just posted one of their pieces today that another associate over there had written and arranged, and it was marvelous. So, but I don't see, like, we've seen guys at Texas bring their community bands in, remember?
Right.
Texas, and what, wasn't there one from close to you in Chicago?
Oh, the North Shore Community Band. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for years.
Yeah.
And we used to look forward to that at Midwest. They were a regular.
Yeah, they were great. They're a great band. Yeah, they are. But I think, and this is this is kind of a delicate subject, but I get the feeling with the European bands that music, I don't know, is almost more meaningful to them. And there's less ego involved, if you understand where I'm going with this.
I do.
I mean, whether that ego is from the podium or from whatever, or ego in terms of we've got certain benchmark pieces in the wind band repertoire, and by God, if we don't put another notch on our belt by playing this, then we're nothing. And I think maybe some of those groups that you talk about maybe take some more chances, and they broaden their palette a little bit more, and it's a lot more about the music and a lot less about the person. What do you think about that?
I would agree with you. I'm thinking of an NDR big band recording. I'm trying to think if it was Joan Reindeer that wrote the arrangement. I can't remember for sure, but it was called, I think, Homage to Stravinsky. And it was approximately an hour long, and it was wonderful. And I put it on Facebook, and I don't think anybody listened to it. But that's okay. We all have different taste. But I like to make those things available. And so, yeah, I think they're taking a chance. I don't know, maybe there's more people taking chances than I know about.
Yeah. I'm
always amazed that there's always somebody else that I didn't know about, and here they are playing, or they've done something on their own that I knew nothing about, and I just adore it, really enjoy it.
That's cool. Well, I'm not sure about you, but for me, listening to jazz sometimes can be really, really difficult, especially small combo jazz kind of things. The performers, and especially the soloists, sometimes they just seem to ramble, and they just bore me so quickly, and I just want to tune them out. But then there are the other soloists who just captivate me, and they just draw me in, and I have to continue to listen to them. Right. So what's the difference between those two? What are they doing? What's one doing that the other one isn't?
I think that some of the smaller groups are relying on the stalwarts of the jazz improvisation era, like Coltrane or Miles Davis or whatever. And there's been some good documentaries come out recently. I just finished one on on Cole or Miles Davis, and it was wonderful. And I got more out of that than listening to some of his music. Just seeing how he was working with other people, and that was including Coltrane at one time. So, have you listened any to Emmett Cohen?
Not
Don't know the
recently.
name. Emmett Cohen is a pianist in New York, and I think it's called Emmett's Place, and you can find it on YouTube. And he'll have a guest with him now and then, and he'll usually start out very simple, almost lackadaisical in playing something. It'll usually be something and he'll probably play this for 10, 12 minutes as an introduction to his show or program. And he then starts tearing loose and really tears up the carpet with whatever he's doing, or whatever the word is I need to use there. But he's excellent. He's had some vocalists on at different times. He's had trumpet players on at different times, but it's basically just he and his drummer and bass player. And he's worth checking out. I'm trying to think to answer your question. I'm not answering it, I guess.
Well, I guess where I'm going with it, as the soloist is playing their improvisational solo, some of those guys draw me in, and man, I just am captivated. And the other guys, man, they just bore the living daylights out of me. They don't speak to me at all, And I was wondering if you could articulate a difference there. What's the difference between that?
Charlie, I don't know. I wish I did. It's I think all of our listening has changed, and we've grown with it. You as well as I and everybody else that I know. But I'm not sure. I had difficulty in college listening to Handel or Brahms or Mozart. I thought I grew up listening to the radio in the barn when I was milking cows, and we'd listen to Bobby Darin singing Mac the Knife. And I got to college and I thought, what the devil is this?
Mm-hmm.
I took music theory and had no idea what I was doing. And it was 4 years later when I finally got into arranging and so forth. And then I started to listen better. Today I can listen to Haydn or Mozart, and I couldn't back then. I just talked to Lotzenheiser about this a week ago or so, and we're both in the same boat. And I suspect you are too. Don't you remember things that you couldn't listen to 40 years ago and you listen to now?
Yeah. One of my favorite stories, Gary Green.
Oh, yeah.
Just retired from Miami. We were judging a marching band festival at Chesterton High School in Chesterton, Indiana, for the late, great Al Castronovo.
Oh, yeah.
And Gary was at University High School in Spokane, Washington at the time.
I remember.
And he had just been turned on to David Maslanka's A Child's Garden of Dreams.
Holy
smokes. Right. He had just been turned on to it, and it revolutionized him. And he knew that with his high school band, and it was a great high school band, that he could never perform such pieces, and that he had to move on. He had to find a college job and get with more mature musicians. Right. And,
Sure.
And Gary is just so excited about this. And so we're in Chesterton, Indiana, and we pull into this Dairy Queen type place, and we're in the parking lot, and he goes, Charlie, he says, you got to listen to this, man. He says, this is the most incredible thing you'll ever listen. And I had one of those Sony Walkman cassette players when I had portable speakers in. So I set it up, I turned it on, I played it, and I'm listening to it about 15 seconds. And the next thought that went through my mind is, am I going to get peanuts or not on that hot fudge sundae? I couldn't hang with it. I mean, it was so far beyond where my ears were at the time. And
Sure.
then then 25 years later, whenever it was later, I'm working on my doctorate degree and I did this big term paper on it. So you kind of hit on this. As we grow musically, our ears grow and we're able to embrace more things, more sounds, more depth in what we're listening to and how we listen, right?
Absolutely. You nailed it.
Well, that's all we need then, Les. Thank you.
Okay. See you later, Charlie. Shouldn't we get some pie and coffee?
Oh my God. No. But yeah, we really do as we listen more and we ask more questions. But I think, the other thing is that you really are a dedicated listener. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I do want to tell you about one of my former students, John Armato. In fact, he's going to be on my next podcast, the one that precedes this one, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I've seen him on Facebook.
Yeah, he was a drummer in my high school band, and he is a big creative strategist for this big PR company. And the kid's brilliant, but he's always played drums, and he finally pursued his dream, and he cut his own CD called "The Drummer Loves Ballads." You've probably seen him advertise "The Drummer Loves Ballads."
Great title.
Oh, and it's really a wonderful, wonderful disc. But he opens it up with a little dialogue, and the dialogue basically is, "I'm a drummer. I went to a jam session as a high school kid, as a young musician, and playing a jam session." And he says, "Of course, the purpose of a jam session is to see who can outplay who on the stand, right?"
Sure.
And he says, we got to a point, and the tune ended. And he said they were playing Cherokee or something like that, and the tune ended, and the guy says, turns to him, the guy leading the jam session, and he says, "Anything you'd like to play?" And he says, "I said, how about a ballad?" And the guy looked at me like, "A ballad? What's the matter? You tired?" And he tells us wonderfully, but it's a great recording. If you haven't heard it, you need to listen to it.
I haven't, so I'll look into it.
Well, if you're on Apple Music, you can download it on Apple Music, or you can get a hold of John. He can send it. But why I say that is that the CD's really well done.
Okay.
And he's got this young lady who sings a song called "The Shadows of Paris," and her name is Lucy. I think it's Winions. And she is the daughter of one of my old band students at Winnetonka. I mean, this Lucy's mom and John were classmates, but she sings "The Shadows of Paris." And I'm telling you what, this gal is amazing.
Wow.
She is an amazing singer.
I'll look forward to it.
Yeah. So, I love listening to new stuff and wonderful stuff. And, it was one of those things that as you listen to it, it's just like, whoa, this is really first rate. And she's won some awards. She's won like an Ella Fitzgerald Scholarship Fund or something, but she's cool. So let me change course here a minute.
Could I inject one thing?
Absolutely.
You hit a nail that hit my head, I guess, or something here. I think when we hear something like you're talking about Gary Green playing Children's Garden to you on a recording on what was it, a Walkman or whatever?
Yeah, it was a cassette with good speakers, yeah, in those days.
Well, but I heard that live. I heard that my first time to hear that was at Columbus at Ohio State, and Painter was there with the Northwest Band, and they played that there. And Miss Lanka was there, and we got to visit with him afterwards. And I didn't know for sure what I was hearing, but I loved it immediately. And I think sometimes, it's hard to hear things that are from a recorded source rather than, how live music is.
Sure.
So many times somebody will say, "Man, you can't believe how good this was live," and I'll listen to a recording of it, and bingo, I'm under the table. I don't want to hear anymore.
Right.
So I think where we hear it or whatever, I think that's also another thing that you need to think about.
Yeah, it's part of that experience, right? Music has to be experienced. Can't explain it. Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was talking about, music today, I guess, is so much more accessible. I mean, I think it's harder to find good. Do you think it's harder to find good recordings or performances today? And I say that because I remember the days, and so do you, is that when we went to the record store, you mentioned this earlier, and we would spend hours thumbing through the stacks and stacks of albums, deciding on where to spend the few bucks we had available to buy some albums. But when we did, we seemed to take the album home and we listened to it, not once, but until the darn grooves were almost worn off the record, right? We heard it. We listened.
Absolutely.
I remember, when I was in college and buying my first Maynard Ferguson album, MF1. I didn't know what I bought, but I was like, oh, it's a trumpet player and he looks pretty cool. And I played it. And I'm like, holy man. And I just burned the grooves off of that thing.
Sure.
But I think music is so accessible now. We don't do that anymore.
That's a good point. That may be part of what's deterred people from listening more. You probably said a lot there. When you remember Tommy Osborne?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Great band record.
Yeah. Well, Tim was involved some, but Tim was kind of on his own track, always was. But we would, like you say, we'd go buy a side or two, and then we'd come back and we wouldn't play it once, we'd play it all day. The first time we got it, we wanted to know everything about it. And as Tom and I will both confess today, we were listening especially to different arrangers
Mm-hmm.
in the jazz area, especially. And we would Oliver Nelson, still his works are fantastic. And so it's the listening. I don't know. I don't know. You rubbed me a little bit there because
I'm sorry. Hope you enjoyed it.
Love it when you rub me, Charlie.
You're a wild man.
Sorry, children. But what you think that's part of the reason we don't listen anymore, because we hear music in the elevator, we hear music everywhere we go?
I think it's too accessible. I can go to Apple Store. I pay my $9 a month, and I can download 26 albums, and I might not listen to them. I just wanted them on my collection. But when we used our hard-earned money, what was it, $18 or $9 or $12, whatever it was, and we brought it home, we had something tangible in our hands, and we put it on the record player, whatever it was, the turntable, and we listened to it. And gosh, that was just magical. But you listen to it again and again. I remember when I was in college, buying like an Emerson, Lake and Palmer album, or Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, or Buddy Rich Big Band, or Woody Herman stuff. It's like we just burned we knew the arrangements. We knew everything they were doing.
Yeah, you're right. Dr. Sherman at Ball State, one of my composition teachers and professors, and Morris Knight too, I should give him credit, always said, Lester, quit buying records. Go buy the music. So you can see, not only listen, but so you can see what's going on. And that changed a lot of my habits also. And because of being an arranger, composer, it meant a lot too. I don't know whether that's worth 2 cents to you or not.
No, you know what? You had told me that story
a
long time ago about your composition professor telling you music. And I'll tell you why, because I was at the Midwest Clinic and I was teaching in Olathe, Kansas at the time. And I had just started working on my doctorate degree. And I went to Carl Fisher's Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
On Wabash Avenue, where Maury Rhodes, who ended up being my dear, dear, dear friend, was working.
He was the best, Charlie.
Huh?
He was the best. He knew. You could ask him a question about any kind of music, especially a solo or ensemble, and Maury knew it.
Oh, he's got some great stories. He said, I knew the whole inventory, Charlie, and guys would call and they go like, do you have air for band? And he'd go, no, we're sold out of that. And the guy goes, well, can you check? And he'd go, sure. And so he said, all I would do is I would put the phone down next to me. I'd do something else. I come back in 5 minutes, go like, I've checked all the stacks and no, we don't have it. And he said, so when people would call me and I knew we didn't have it, I said, well, let me check. And I would just set the phone down and do something else. And then I would come back and tell him we don't have it. But, you mentioned the solo and ensemble. He said his favorite story was this dad calls and he said, my son's playing the saxophone and I want to get him a piece of music. And he's looking for the Concert for Camera.
Concert for Camera.
Concert. Yeah. Concerto de Camera. Right.
Oh,
and who's it by? It's by, oh God, who wrote that? I can't remember, but, oh God, it's just, and he even announced the composer. I'm drawing a blank here, but anyhow.
That's okay. That's okay.
Oh, but it was just hysterical. He said, it took me a while to figure out what he was doing it. So, man.
Yeah.
But
my favorite Maury story.
Yeah.
Can I inject?
Yeah.
Yeah. We his wife, clarinetist, what's her?
Ruth Rhodes. Ruth my old
Rhodes.
girl, Ruth.
She and Maury were driving us to one of your dinners.
Yeah.
After your Midwest performance Friday night. And I remember we were talking about all this Viagra commercials that were getting hot at the time. And where you'd say, if you took Viagra, why you better watch out, because you might
Right.
you might be exposed or something. And Maury said, if I got into that, I would put my raincoat on and go right downtown. I thought that was great.
Maury.
Oh,
Yeah. So, but I'm going way back to this. You told me about your professor.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that year I decided I was going to get myself a Christmas present. And I went down to the Chicago Symphony store and I bought Scholte's complete set of Mahler symphonies.
Oh my goodness.
And then I went to Carl Fisher and I bought scores to all of Mahler's symphonies.
Oh, wow.
And that was what I did that was my Christmas present. So I went home and I listened to every Mahler symphony with the score. And I got lost a lot, but I just kept, I would finally find out where they were, but it was just, it's magical.
Right.
It's
I agree. How many things did you find in the recording, Charlie, as you're watching the score that doesn't appear in the recording?
Well, yeah, but then that made me question my interpretation and balance and the importance and what was it, nuance and what should be, I don't know, I don't know. I mean, I'm still not as good enough a musician to make that determination,
Come on. Yes, you are.
But yeah, every once in a while you find some stuff that you just, I don't hear this,
Well, as an arranger, I remember when our buddy Ted Paczynski was up at Homestead, and one year we did Carmelo's by the Freeway, the Bob Florence jazz tune.
Okay.
And I had never seen anything scored so thickly in my life. Is that a word, thickly?
Yeah.
Or more thick?
Thick or dense or thickly is fine.
Whatever. And then the next year we did Petrushka. And tearing into that score, I go, whoa, dig the bassoon or something. Here's a line that you never hear. And anyway, that's small talk about why I think reading the scores is very important.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you to take all that Mahler stuff back.
Oh, and the piece that Maury was telling me it was Concert de Camera by Jack E. Bear. Jacques Bear. That's what the guy said. It's the Concert for Camera by Jack E. Bear.
Too funny.
I finally remembered it. Oh man, I got a brain dead. So you still got a lot of albums? You mentioned you're a collector. You got, how many you got?
I don't count them, Charlie.
You're in the thousands?
1,000?
Are you in the thousands? I said.
I would say, just guessing, 40 to 50,000 of records, 78s and CDs and cassettes.
Oh my gosh.
Well, when we moved from Pennsylvania in 1998, I probably had about 60. So I had to sell about 20 just to make the move.
You had to sell 20,000.
Yeah. In fact, I left them at the auction. And I left some choice things, Charlie.
Oh my gosh.
16-inch radio recordings of, I'm trying to think, one of the great pianists. Anyway, we just couldn't do it. And my wife, every time we move, threatens me because she says, please, let's try and keep a couple rooms like they are. and I eventually just everything's loaded all over the place. I mean, let's see, this is a room with a lot. I have a bedroom with a lot. I have a garage with a lot, and I have a 10 by 30 storage unit that's loaded.
Oh
So
my God. So obviously, record albums are your preferred, or do you rather listen on compact disc or digital download or cassette tape or that 8-track player you still have in your car?
I didn't prefer the CD at first because of the range, limited range, audible range, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I fought with people over that for a long time, but it became CDs became a habit because it was the easiest thing to do. And there's a lot of things that are not on vinyl that are on CD and vice versa.
Yeah.
Like the Billy Taylor, Oliver Nelson Capitol recordings. There were 2 of them, and they're only on vinyl. They were never released on CD, and they're fantastic charts. Anyway, so I don't have a real preference. Probably the CD today. I download some, but it's not my preference to do. I would rather have the CD in my hand, Charlie.
Yeah. So you like listening on with headphones or earbuds, or do you prefer a good set of speakers?
I prefer the headphones.
Yeah, get a good set of headphones, right?
Yes, sir.
It blocks it out. Yeah,
Get some good Bose or whatever in some quality headphones.
Yep, I'm totally with you. You prefer to listen alone or with other people around?
With headphones on?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, with headphones, you're obviously by yourself, but
I thought, Charlie, what are you saying? Holy cow. Well, if I'm in the room listening to a YouTube thing,
yeah,
I say, Susan, this is really neat. Come on in. But she doesn't care for that much. She'd rather watch, what's that, where they fix up houses and stuff.
The House Flippers show.
Now, I can't stand it.
No, I can't either.
So she'll be in the back watching them flip houses, and I'll be out there listening. No, I listen by myself. I love to have people listen with me. Tim will listen with me once in a while, but not often.
I love having people listen if they shut up and listen, and then you can talk about it when it's over, right?
Exactly. Tim's that way. Have you ever listened with him? He's very intent on listening very closely to what's going on. He doesn't talk at all. He absorbs completely, just like you would.
Yeah, Tim's a lot smarter than he looks.
Oh, you said it, I didn't.
And he looks very smart. Okay, last question, Les.
Okay.
If you had to take a couple of recordings with you to the desert island, what would you take?
Oh my, Charlie.
I know. It's one of those. What do you mean? I mean, you can't take all 50,000 unless you got a really big boat, right? So
I don't even know where to start. I would probably take Stravinsky's Firebird as one because I dearly love all the different sections of that, and the ending's one of the best endings ever written. Let's see, what would be the second one? Maybe a Vandercook recording.
Oh yeah. Probably it would be either Shark Attack or Pass the Sherbert to be Herbert.
Oh no, how about Stick It?
Stick It. That's right. My buddy.
That was one of the best.
It was good. It was fun. It was fun. We had a good time. We always had a good time. We're going to continue to have a good time. I
look forward to it. I'm going to get up to Wisconsin and see your place.
That's right. I got record albums. They're in boxes in the basement. I still have my Bang & Olufsen linear track turntable, man. And it is the bomb.
Good for you.
It is the bomb. And I got great speakers and I got great headphones, and yeah, it's really, really cool.
Can't beat it.
Can't beat it. I got a set, the old Victor Zajac when he was at Vandercook and he had retired. but he had that set of the Educational Record Series. Remember that they put out?
Sure do.
So I had the complete set. You want it? I'll give it to you.
Right now?
Yeah. Well, I can't do it right now, but I'd send it to you when I got home.
No, you don't have to send it to me.
Oh.
When we come up, I've got most of them, Charlie.
Yeah.
I've purchased them, and I've got a bunch off of Don Lamb, if you remember Lamb. And,
Yeah.
it's like I said, it's a disease. I've collected most things.
Yeah, but to kind of put a bow on this for us, it's really important for us to take time to listen to music and new sounds and get way beyond what and go search for things, right? I mean, like, you hear of something. I used to have this chart where I would hear of something, and then I would want to hear it, and then I would want to look at it, and I want to study it, then I want to rehearse it, then I want to perform it. I want to go all the way across the chart with it, and I think that's just so important. And I have a list. I carry a list of things that I hear about. Like, I wrote a couple down today. It's going to go on my list. The Emmett Cohen thing is going to go on the list. I want to hear that Zoot Sims recording you talked about with the Metropole Orchestra. That's going to go on my list of things I want to hear. And I think it's really important for us to continue to grow, no matter what the age, but to continue our musical journey. And man, I know you're on it.
I love it. And I think I got more serious about this after the political situation that we've had over the last 17 years. And I don't mean just Trump, I mean way back. And when I finally made a decision not to participate in that on Facebook, and I only post maybe a little joke or some humor or a cartoon and music.
Yep.
And I try and never miss a day, whether anybody listens to it or not. I post what I think is good music, and I enjoy it.
And we enjoy the posts. So keep posting, Lester.
Okay, will do, Charlie. Thank you.
Okay, and give Susan a big hug, and God bless you, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, buddy.
And same to Wanda. We love her. Okay. Thanks again, Charlie.
Thank you, brother. We'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye. Les Taylor is such an honest and open human being, and he always tells me exactly the way it is and how he feels and what he likes and why he likes it and what he doesn't like and why he doesn't like it. Les is one of those people in my life who continually motivates me to be a better person and to continue my growth and development as a musician and a music teacher. Les has reaffirmed so many of my beliefs over and over again, and I owe him so much. Lester Taylor, thank you, my friend, for the 50 years of friendship and love you have always extended to me. Hearing your voice and exchanging ideas is always a special time in my life, and I can't wait to do it again. Well, that's Band Talk with Charlie Mangini and Friends. Please tell your friends and colleagues about Band Talk with Charlie Mangini and Friends, available on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. I'll be back with more great conversations, but for now, this is Charlie Mangini saying, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Band Talk with Charlie Mangini and Friends. If you would like to send a question to Charlie or have a comment, please send an email to bandtalkcharlie@gmail.com. We hope you will let your colleagues, students, and friends know about Band Talk with Charlie Mangini and Friends. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to being with you again soon.